why most buyers actually overpay. They fail to understand why some properties are profitable and what's not. A lot of people, they are kind of misled into properties that as long as you're near an MRT or you're near a good school, you're definitely profitable, only to realize that that's not really the real reason. There are some extremists and come and tell me that, oh, this one is 99 years, so therefore lose money. There's a framework that you want to use when you select condos which are inherent to the property, so it's like that DNA that you can't change. They could be above value or they could be below value. What I'll be doing today is I'll be actually sharing with you a 3P framework, a very clear basic framework that helps investors and buyers to cut through the noise to understand how do I determine actually with a systematic approach to choose a product that actually can give you that capital appreciation that you are looking for, given that in today's market there's a lot of noise, a lot of information, probably flooded with a lot of opinions of what's good and what's not. Let's break it down. Good day everyone, my name is Jared. So today's topic for my webinar is actually about how to spot undervalued properties with clear exit strategy. What I'll be doing today is I'll be actually sharing with you a 3P framework, a very clear basic framework that helps investors and buyers to cut through the noise to understand how do I determine actually with a systematic approach to choose a product that actually can give you that capital appreciation that you are looking for, given that in today's market there's a lot of noise, a lot of information, probably flooded with a lot of opinions of what's good and what's not. What I hope to achieve also today is share with you why most buyers actually overpay and how you can avoid it. Also, there's a couple of mistakes that buyers normally make. They fail to understand why some properties are profitable and what's not. A lot of people, they are kind of misled into properties that as long as you're near an MRT or you're near a good school, you're definitely profitable, only to realize that that's not really the real reason. This is also for investors who are looking for a formula which you should know before your next purchase. Last but not least, timing the market is quite hard. So with a proper framework, learning how to actually understand the mechanics of what makes a profitable investment, spotting undervalued properties should not be that hard. So in terms of condo selection framework, I always like to bring to my buyers' attention of two separate frameworks. Okay, it's important to understand what the differences are in terms of these two frameworks. One of them, I would like to relate it to a condo's DNA. Okay, this DNA are things that you can't change. All right, these are specifically characteristics that's inherent to the condo's the condo or the unit that you are probably considering. This, however, does not directly correlate to whether a property is profitable or not. Okay, for property to be profitable, it's important to understand what we call the 3P framework. For profitable properties, it's about learning how to find or identify a safe entry. It's all about price, right? So if the property is valued at a certain price, it's important to identify whether you are buying at below value, at value, or above value. Because what that means is it's able to help you to establish whether or not you have a clear exit plan. So a lot of buyers, I feel like they are kind of confused. They're muddled with a lot of opinions in the market, a lot of information online. They come to me and say, hey Jared, this property is near MRT, so therefore it should be a profitable investment. Or there are some extremists and come and tell me that, oh, this one is 99 years, so therefore lose money. So you get to hear a lot of this kind of different opinions, which I then try to educate them very clear and systematic framework that there's a framework that you want to use when you select condos which are inherent to the property, so it's like that DNA that you can't change. But then for a property that has a certain DNA, depending on the timing where you enter into the market, it could be at value that you buy this, they could be above value, or they could be below value. So the 3P framework actually is more dynamic. It's really situational depending on the entry price that you go into. It depends on a lot of market forces. Whereas the static DNA framework is really fixed. Yeah, you can't change whether the property is near MRT or not. It's just near MRT or near school. Okay, so in this webinar today, it's a lot of focus on the 3P framework. Okay, I will be actually going in depth, in detail, into three specific kind of case studies. So if today you are an investor, you probably have a budget about 1.5 to 2 mil, you are in luck. I have actually a case study that I prepared for you. Or if today you are a family of four looking for an upgrade from your HDB to say a 4-bedder condo, you probably have a budget about 2 to 2.5 mil. And you're wondering about what are the kind of properties that I have that could have a good potential growth. You're also in luck. And finally, the third case study is actually targeting towards maybe a family who's considering a multi-generation setup, but you probably think that the landed asset class is maybe 2 steps away from you, and you're probably exploring a 4-5-bedder condo as an intermediary step, but you're concerned with putting a $3 million, $3 million into a property that you want to make sure that has some growth so that you can enter into the landed asset class. This is also very suitable for you. Hey, without further ado, let me just show you deep dive into what we call the 3P framework. To really keep things simpler, why I call it 3P is really starting with price, position, and plan. All right, so specifically on price. Whether or not a property is profitable or not in future depends on what is the entry price today. Okay, and what is your entry price today in relative to your surrounding price movements. It's important to understand your right entry price with reference to the disparity between a few things. I'll be talking about your new versus resale comparison, your region comparison within the district, both PSF and quantum. This is actually especially important today because we live in a GFA harmonized calculation already. So it's no longer just meaningful to compare just PSF alone. It's important to understand how quantum plays an important role as well, because at the end of the day, your buyer's affordability is not based on PSF, but the bank is only lending the buyer's money based on how much they can borrow. And then that is really the quantum of the property affects them directly and more importantly than the PSF itself. Okay? And then the second P is about position. It's really understanding about the stack analysis. You'll be surprised that actually developers sometimes they price different stacks of the same kind of floor plan layout very, very differently. This is what we call pricing strategy from the developer, because they're incentivized to push units in a very strategic way without the consumers even knowing. And sometimes agents they are not fully transparent with how these are being priced. And then of course, if you are not very analytical and you don't go down deep enough, you will find that certain stacks are more favorable and some certain stacks are not that favorable. So these factors like the unit facing layout, they does actually also translate to long-term value and in turn your price appreciation potential. Last but not least, also about the floor plan. So floor plan analysis is also very important because it's important to understand how your floor plan looks like with reference to the resale competitors. Always remember that today when you buy a unit, always put yourself in the shoes of your buyer 4 years later. Your unit is going to be in the resale market competing with your neighbors, and your floor plan must have a unique selling point with reference to your competitors. If you don't have that or you are inferior in certain layouts, you'll find yourself 4 years later trying to compensate based on price, and that's not exactly what you don't want. Okay, so without further ado, let's assume that today you are an investor. Your budget probably about 2 mil. I mean, in today's context, if you want to buy a 2-bedder, 2 mil is a good amount of budget to have options. All right, whether is it the core central, city fringe, or the outskirts. So the product I have for illustration purposes today is Aurea. It's a core central region property, 2-bedroom, size about 65 square feet. Considering the price right now, currently going for a discount at about 1.7 mil. PSF is about 2007. PSF. So now the question is, how can I use the 3P framework to determine whether this proposal is a worthy investment or not? Let's break it down. Okay, so some specifications of the property that I'd like to share with you first. So the specs of the price is listed them down, position, and the plan. So always use the 3P framework as a structured methodology of deciding whether this is a good investment or not. So price, like I mentioned, what is the price gap? The price gap that you are identifying serves as a layer of protection because it is a safety net that determines your exit strategy 4 years later in the resale market. So first thing, when you buy a property, you need to understand how your unit compares with the nearby surrounding resale. Okay, this is also what we call the comparative market analysis, CMA for short. Okay, so it's also important to compare with relevant examples. You don't want to compare, say, because we are in D7, okay, there's no point in comparing a property in District 9 or District 11, which is not a very good data point to refer to. So in this context here, I'm comparing with 4 other resale properties, which is Dual Residence, TOP in 2017, Midtown Modern, just recently TOP at the time of recording, the M TOP 2 years ago, and Citygate TOP about 7 years ago. So a very good kind of contrast comparison, not biased towards anything. So it's a very balanced view of comparison that we want to actually see whether the entry price per area, how does it compare to your resale counterparts. So there's one concept here, what we call the resale disparity effect. Okay, we need to understand how does area compare to the resale property. So I have over here Midtown Modern. If I break it down, if you look at the numbers, average quantum for the 2-bedroom transactions currently doing about 2.3 to 2.4 mil. Okay, these are of course on a bigger square footage at about 700 square feet, but the PSF actually is about 3,003. So if you look at the average kind of quantum and PSF, you realize that this compared to Aura is actually quite a big buffer, okay, which is good if you're considering an entry into Aura at 2007 PSF. That's easily kind of $500, $600 gap. Another example is the M. Okay, so the M, similar analysis. This is a 2019 property. The lease starts from 2019. So actually, the average PSF that is going for is about 2008. But if you just reset that lease back to brand new 99, what you'll find is this goes up to maybe about 3,000 plus PSF, which is a very kind of safe buffer if you're considering an entry into Aura at 2007 PSF. So similar analysis which you can do. So I just want to take this moment to pause here, is that today I'm just illustrating an example of Aura, but what is important for you as the person who's watching this video is to take away the concept, because it's the concept and the methodology that's more important to assess whichever property that you are looking to buy or invest. So you can use the same kind of frameworks that I'm showing you today. Okay, coming to dual residence. So this is actually one of the quite a famous property that's a lot of transactions that's happening averagely for a 2-bedder today at 2002 PSF quantum about 2 mil. Okay, so immediately one would then think, wow, isn't it 2002 PSF for a resale? Would it be better off buying a resale? Or is my gap between Aura and dual too big? Because Aura is at 2007, so it feels at a face value that I am entering at a $500 disadvantage. Is that really true? Because if you look at the lease reset value, if I just reset dual residence to a brand new 99 years, what I'll find is that at purchase price, so this is a listing for dual residence on Property Guru, you will see, this person is asking 2.5 mil for a 2-bedder. Lease tenure start date is 2011, so it approximately has a balance lease of about 85 years. So PSF on surface is about 2004. Okay, so if I just reset that to a full 99 years, actually it comes back to be about 2008 PSF with reference to a brand new 99 or at 2007. So what we're seeing is that for resale property in the market, if you actually do the lease disparity effect calculation, it actually you're buying the brand new at a discount. And not only that, like I mentioned, PSF today is not really the only metric you should be looking at. Quantum ultimately decides or determines the affordability of your future buyer. So if you do a lease reset on the full price of the property, this actually works out to be a $2.9 million for a two-bed property. So imagine today a buyer 4 years later, he was to actually look at your property versus this one. 2.9 million for a two-bedder might be a little bit more challenging in terms of your exit audience. Okay? For the M currently on Property Guru asking for 2007 PSF, this was a property that just recently TOP. This is also, the D starts from 2019, so you have a balance lease of 93 years. PSF on surface is about 2007 PSF for 93 years left. So what that means, if you reset it back to brand new 99, you have actually a PSF about 2009 PSF. So I like how consistently showing two resale properties are giving me back a number that is more expensive than the brand new, which then illustrates the safe entry price for Aura at 2007 comparatively to the resale market. Okay? And then now, that's for the resale. The next segment is about comparing how does Aura as a brand new property in the core central region compare to its other region counterparts. So in this example, I'm showing you the gap between a core central region and the outskirts. So actually in the outskirts today, there are properties like Jayden and Chuan Park has already crossed about 2006 and 2008 ASM respectively. So what that means is today, if you're considering a product like Aura, essentially, you're buying a core central region product at the same price as what people has bought and transacted outskirts property for. This is exceptionally important because fundamentally these are different product classes. The outskirts pricing will eventually form the foundation layer of your price support, which also then means that your outskirts, the core central region property that you buy is unlikely to fall below the outskirts property lah. Okay, and then if I just look at it in the entire landscape of the outskirts region, you will see that there are already record prices transacted around the whole region for the north, west, and even the east, all doing about 2005, 2006, very, very close to what Aura is doing at 2007. So this is what I really like about how low and undervalued we are entering the product at. So if there was anything right, important is about the right entry price and making sure that you're not too far away from your outskirt counterparts. So the next gap analysis, we want to compare it with the city fringe properties. All right, so you have Ori, Emerald of Katong, and Promenade Peak. You can see that the PSFs are all already at 2008, 2009 PSF at a quantum of approximately about 1.8 to 2 mil. With reference to for Oriel, you're looking at 2 bedrooms, 1.7 mil, and PSF of 2007. So what you're doing is actually buying into a core central region product that's even cheaper than a city fringe price tag. Okay, and giving you even a clear example here for city fringe property comparing to Grand Dunman, a 2-bed 1 bath that costs you about $2 million. In Oriel, on the other side, the core central region product, we are buying a 2-bed 2 bath at 1.7 million. This slide is showing you for the outskirts, we are comparing with Chuan Park. So in both scenarios here, I have a 2-bed 2 bath product, but the entry price for our Chuan Park is 1.9 mil versus a CCR product like Oriel is 1.7 mil. So what that means is actually you have a 200K price quantum disparity difference. All right. And then of course, I want to compare Oriel with my neighboring core central region to understand how big is the price disparity. So if I look at my core central D9 counterparts like Upper House, River Green, and Robertson Opus, at this time of recording, these launches were actually just launched a month ago, so these are very recent data. We look at the PSF, these are all averaging of way above 3,000 PSF all the way to 3,003 PSF for Opus. And you see at the average quantum, we're looking at about 2.4 mil even. So with the entry price of Oriel at 1.7, you're talking about a 700K price quantum disparity. Yeah. So you must understand that is essentially when you exit 4 years later, or if you're hoping to exit, your future buyer will also have the concerns about affordability as well. They are looking at a two-bedder, they're hoping to rent out they want to maximize the amount of rental gains they're getting based on the least amount of outlay they have to put down. So if let's say you're looking at a 2-bedroom at Aura at 1.7 versus a 2-bedroom in say these areas at about 2.4, you're talking about a big difference in terms of outlay. Your rental at the end of the day, right, would not differ too much. So as an investor 4 years later, what he's really looking at is the lowest minimum entry possible. So if I were to just lay out your exit strategy, okay, your blueprint to really identifying your winning exit plan is really understanding where your gaps are. It's important if you can put this down, you will then have the assurance how to execute this safely. Okay, so if I were to enter Aura at 2007 PSF, I will have an unfair entry advantage, a very strong price gap with my outskirt counterparts and my city fringe counterparts, $100 difference to be exact. And even this pricing for the city fringe and the outskirts have a further price gap with Promenade Peak at about 2009 PSF. So I have 2 layers of protection here, which really gives Aura as a very safe entry for investment. Okay? Now, okay, so if I deep dive into the stack analysis for position, my second P in the 3P framework, the purpose is I want to make sure that the specific stack that I'm looking at is not ridiculously priced. I want to reference this stack with the other stack to make sure that I'm not disadvantaged or there's no premium that I'm unaware of. So it's important to say, ask your consultant or have a chat with me if there's a specific unit that you have already kind of shortlisted and you want to know whether there is a premium that's been loaded on this specific unit that you're unaware of. It's important to do this exercise. So what I did was for the level that I want to be interested in is level 5, for example, in this, I want to be clear what's the pricing for each stack at level 5. So I've illustrated here for 0535, 0534, 0533, and I'm pleased to also see that in terms of quantum, in terms of PSF, they do not differ too much. Actually, the main difference for these different stacks is the size, so they come with different layouts. But what I wanted to achieve was I wanted to see if the PSF differed tremendously. So I'm happy to see that actually for the entry price of stack 35 and 34, the entry PSF doesn't differ too much. So it means to say that the developer has priced this quite balanced, which is good for you as an investor. Okay, and now the last P, which is the plan. Okay, plan is an important factor because if you are selling to a buyer who's planning to live in, actually the floor plan is a very, very important factor to determine whether your unit can sell or not. Okay, nobody likes to buy a unit that is irregular layout or has bay windows all over or has overly sized big balconies or bedrooms can not fit a decent sized bed. Okay, so if you look at your counterparts in District 7, mainly the resale properties like Dual Residence and Citygate, what you'll find is for Aura, the layout is a lot more superior. So for Dual Residence, you'll find that your balcony and your whole entire layout is curved. There's a lot of wasted space. If you look at the entrance corridor over here, right, you will basically have a very long kind of wasted corridor space. Okay, and then for Citygate, what you'll find is that look at this overly sized big balcony in a very weird shade. And then not only that, you have actually more than one balcony, so it's not really kind of practical in this aspect here. Even though your unit is relatively big, you don't even have an enclosed kitchen, so it's still a walk-in kind of kitchenette. That's quite not really ideal. Versus if you compare it to an Aura, although no doubt your square footage is maybe 646, but in turn what you get is A very nice dumbbell layout, very efficient, very squarish. So in today's environment here, buyers look for efficiency of layout. Sellability anchors heavily on layout efficiency. If you are looking for a tenant or buyer who's looking for an enclosed kitchen, happy to show you that actually this kitchen is a little bit, is enclosable. It's actually tucked in so that you can, if you want to erect a glass sliding door, it's doable. So this is actually fantastic and very well received in the market. Okay, so this is the kind of analysis that you should be doing to understand how does your choice units layout compare with your nearby surrounding resale. Because if you do that, you will have the assurance that down the road 4 years later, your buyers who are looking for own stay, immediate occupation, your unit will stand out as the preferred choice in the resale market. Next case study. Imagine today you are a family of 4. Okay, you probably made your first pot of gold from your BTO, or maybe you were lucky enough to get an EC. So you're sitting on a pot of gold and looking for the upgrade. Okay, the upgrade basically because you are probably in your highest income earning producing season and you're hoping to elevate your asset class. You hope to get more asset exposure because you believe that the property growth will be substantial when you move into the private segment. You're working with a price range of about 2.5 million that's comfortable to size. Your family of 4, you're looking for a 3-bedroom. You're coming from maybe the BTO and EC locations, which are a little bit usually located more outskirts. You hope to give your family a better lifestyle and maybe move somewhere more central, probably considering somewhere more city fringe. So the proposal that I'd like to share with you is Bloomsbury residence in this case study. So what's interesting here is that for Bloomsbury, there are 3 bedders that are actually well below 2.5 mil. This is a harmonized project, so the floor plan later on I'll show you does not come into the aircon ledges. So 990 square feet is actually a 3+ study that's fully usable in size. And interestingly, the PSF that's currently on the market at the time of recording is 2004 PSF. Let's use our 3P framework to decide whether this product is it worthy of our consideration. Will it give us a clear exit strategy down the road? Are we selecting an undervalued property based on our nearby resale counterparts? Let's deep dive into it. Okay, same thing. We use the 3P framework to determine whether this property is undervalued and has a clear exit strategy or not. Let's start off with price first. Okay, so as usual, we do the comparative market analysis, the CMA. Let's understand what's the nearby surrounding resale here first. So actually, the good thing here is that if you understand the one-off region, there's actually not much supply. Okay, so that's fundamentally why traditionally all the properties here do well. Okay, I also like to take this opportunity to highlight this property is not near MRT. Okay, but then let's focus on actually understanding what makes a profitable transaction or what makes a profitable project. Is not again not about the DNA of the property, but more towards the framework that you use to identify your right entry price into determining a clear exit strategy. Because if you deep dive into the properties in this area, not that like for example Normanton Park, they are actually very profitable since launch, even though they are a distance away from MRT. It's all about the right entry price and how your project compares in the resale market to determine a clear winning plan. So the CMA analysis that we have done for this example is Rochester Residence, which is a relatively older development. It was TOP in 2011. One-off residence even older, TOP in 2003. Normanton Park, as I mentioned, TOP just last year, 2024. And one-off Eden, also just TOP last year, 2024. So a very good mix of properties that have been illustrated as a reference point to compare. Is Bloomsbury still a good buy? The resale disparity effect, if we look at Rochester Residence, currently, because it's an older development, so you realize that for the 3-bedders, they really run very, very big in terms of size, 1,006 square feet. In today's context, nobody makes 1,006 square feet as 3-bedders anymore. Because what 1,006 square feet means on a quantum level is a number that is really quite beyond the sweet spot of most buyers. So if you see that the average quantum for a 3-bedder in Rochester residence is about 2.9 to 3 mil, and that's not even considering that is 2011. The lease starts 99 years from 2005. So if you just reset that, later on I'll show you in the table, the quantum, overall quantum and the PSF will eventually be more expensive than the brand new launch in today's market. Same exercise that I've done for Normanton Park. So Normanton Park, averagely right now, the average quantum and PSF is about 2.1 mil and 2001 PSF respectively. The lease starts from 2019. So if you just do a reset on that, you'll actually realize that your PSF and entry quantum will actually be about 2005 thereabouts. Okay, and if you look at the entire CMA of the one-off area, you'll see some examples I've already done earlier. For Rochester, you're entering at 3 mil. Lawson Spider Park, you're entering at about 2.5 mil. One-off Eden, you're entering about 2.5 mil, and one-off Residence about 2.3 mil. Okay, with reference to your entry price at Bloomsbury at a quantum of 2.4 mil, relatively safe if you look at the whole entire resale disparity. So let's take a deep dive into how Rochester residents look if we use the lease disparity effect. If I look at the purchase price at 3.1 mil, really, I mean, beyond 3 mil for a 3-bedder in this location exceeds the sweet spot of a lot of buyers. So, which I said, PSF is no longer the only metric to look at, because it's ultimately the quantum that determines the affordability of your next buyer. Okay, at a square footage of 1,006, you can already imagine how the floor plan will be going to be look like. With a balance lease of only 79 years, PSF on surface, that's after harmonization. So you do need to take into account harmonization because you're comparing with Bloomsbury, which is the harmonized project. So how do you do that is basically you just add a 5%. So the actual PSF is about 1,009, but then if you harmonize that, that looks like about 1,995. Okay, so that's PSF on the surface without a reset on the lease. If you reset the lease, what the PSF looks like is about 2005 PSF. What the scary thing is that if you reset the quantum on a brand new full 99 years, the quantum looks even more scary in the 4 mil region. Okay, which then with reference to my entry quantum for Bloomsbury at 2.4 mil, I would say that you have actually a good $1.6 million of gap. Okay, and then what happens after 4 years when you clear your SSD, how this property looks like in the resale market? Can you imagine the property that you own only has a balance lease of 75? How would that look like for your resale buyer? Yeah, you have to think about that. Okay, if region gap is also important to understand how Bloomsbury compares with the outskirts. Okay, for a 3-bed segment, I'm looking at here. Okay, so the average price for a 3-bed new launch right now is about 2.3 mil. Okay, which is really not too far off for the entry price of Bloomsbury at 2.4. So what you are doing is actually buying an RCR product at an OCR's price tag, or maybe even cheaper for a different kind of unit layouts. Now, so for RCR, compare in region, so for Bloomsbury is District 5 RCR, I also want to compare with similar properties in the same category, City Fringe, that's District 5. In total, there's actually a couple, okay? So you have Linden Woods, the Hill at One North, and also other districts like Reserve Residence, the Musu Grand and Emerald of Katong. So quite a variety of different RCR examples which you can use as data points, okay? The average price for a 3-bedder similar kind of layout can range from 2.5 to 2.8 or even more than 3 even. Okay, so what is the purpose of doing this exercise is to identify, is my entry quantum of 2.4 mil at Bloomsbury today for a City Fringe, am I overpaying for this same region, or am I paying below market? That's the reason why we're doing this. So what we realize that for Bloomsbury, you're actually buying at the lowest of the City Fringe price band in terms of both quantum and per square foot. So same thing, what you need to do is you need to outlay lay out clearly how your winning exit plan looks like. So for Bloomsbury, your entry is at 2.4 mil. What you realize is you actually have quite a good price gap with your outskirt counterparts at Hillock. So a Hillock 3-bedroom today is already transacting about 2.5 mil. And then your City Fringe counterparts like the Hill at One North and One North Eden, which is already a resale in today's market, are already doing about 2.5 to 2.6 mil. Today, you're actually buying into a City Fringe brand new property with 3 bedrooms at 2.4 mil. So this is what I call unfair entry advantage, which you tend to get if you are considering Bloomsbury as one of the products that you want to buy. Okay, so same thing in terms of position. The whole intent here is to really identify is the specific stack that I'm looking at with reference to other similar stacks of same layout. Am I priced in an advantage manner? Am I unknowingly paying for a premium? So it's important to get this information clearly and lay that down so that you are clear in terms of your entry PSF. So with reference to, just to be clear, so there's actually different kinds of 3-bedroom layouts in Bloomsbury Residence. There's a 3+ study at 990 square feet. There's a 3 premium at 980 square feet as well. And there's also a 3+ study at 904 square feet as well. Intent here is I don't want to be just focused on a specific product. I want to be quite neutral. I want to make sure that the developer is not pricing a premium on any of the layouts, or even if it is, I want to make sure that I'm not overpaying for any premium that I'm not aware of. Okay, so I have the 990 square feet here for stack 10 and stack 11. I have the 3 premium at stack 5, and I have the 3+ study at stack 1 and stack 16. Interestingly, what I've also found is that regardless of the layout types of the 3 bedrooms in Bloomsbury, you realize that actually all the PSF are all at the 2004 region. What that means is that none of the stacks are actually intentionally loaded with a premium. So relatively all the stacks are priced sensitively. So it really boils down to individual preference. If you are someone who prefers a north-facing or south-facing, the good news for you is that you are not torn apart. You have to choose. You are free to choose based on your own individual preference without having to worry that you're overpaying for any specific unit. Even for the pool-facing unit, you are not even loaded on a premium. So in that aspect, actually what I would recommend you is you might want to consider pool-facing layouts. Because in other projects, the developers usually charge a premium on pool-facing units, which then means that your entry competitiveness may be disadvantaged, but not in this case for Bloomsbury Residence. So if you want to deep dive further into the stack analysis, feel free to reach out. Yeah. Last but not least, let's take a look at how the floor plan for Bloomsbury compares with the resale counterparts like Rochester and Lower Parkview. As I've already expected for 1302 square feet at Rochester Residence, on paper the size looks super attractive. I would also be very attracted and probably click on the Property Guru link, but the moment I did it, I kind of expected the floor plan to look like that. So for 1302 square feet, basically I have an overly sized balcony that runs through the entire house. If you're gonna make very good use of that, that's great, but unlikely because this is really quite inefficient use of space. And I think what's worse is that your floor plan is diagonal and cuts in like that. Okay, if you are into feng shui or you believe feng shui in making decisions for your property purchase, you'll find that this is usually something that buyers avoid. So while you might be okay, always think about how your buyers 4 years later will perceive your property if you are looking to resell. This usually limits your target audience, especially those who feel like feng shui is a very important aspect in their property buying journey. This really kind of like this diagonal shape of the layout, right, limits the efficiency of the space usage. If you take a look at the Dover Parkview, for example, no doubt for 3-bed, 2-bath, 936 square feet, pretty sensible. But if you deep dive into layouts, what you realize is that you have this very sharp edge here. Normally, a big no-no for buyers who again look at feng shui. For a few reasons, these sharp edges are things that people usually avoid. And if you look at the common bedroom over at the bottom side, even though the bedroom looks like that, you can't really put a queen size bed. So if you visualize yourself walking into this room, once you put a bed, there's a reason why the floor plan does not put a bed there. Because it's not meant to put a bed. Then it defeats the purpose. So these are the things to take note. Even though you have 936 square feet, which is quite a nice kind of layout, it's not as efficient. So if I compare that with Bloomsbury at 3 bed 3 bath 980 square feet, just take note again, this is harmonized, so it's fully usable. I don't even count the aircon ledges, whereas the rest do. I have 3 very functional bedrooms, squarish. They can all fit queen size bed. But over and above that, I get a utility room or a household shelter. I get a fully enclosable kitchen, and on top of that, remember I'm looking at a family of 4, 3 bedrooms, potentially might have a helper also. So that is actually equipped with a helper's toilet at the back as well. So very, very functional layout where I feel your target audience next time, 4 years later, right, is definitely wider and more versatile in terms of your resellability. Last, the final demographic or pool of people which increasingly becomes more and more popular, generally in today's market. A lot of, as you go into the 40s, you'll find that your parents, they all age together, and sometime down the road, you hope to maybe live together as a multi-generation family. Maybe from an income level or from a financial level, you feel like a landed segment here is a little bit further and quite a bit of a stretch. Or maybe you are looking for intermediary asset class to reach the landed goal. Or maybe just the landed goal does not work for you because your parents are aged and the stairs in the landed house does not cater for the grandparents, right? So there's this demographic pool of people that are looking for a 4-5 bedder condo. Okay, you're basically maybe spot for choices, and then maybe you probably have already earned quite a profit from your previous properties, and you're looking for maybe a purchase price about 3.5 mil. You're wondering in the market today, you're flooded with quite a few options. You want somewhere close to nature, you want somewhere close to MRT because of parents and kids, but you're not sure which product you want to choose. Okay, so I have here today demonstrated a property that you could consider. Using my 3P framework, I'll be analyzing and deep diving into Springleaf Residence, which is a project that is in the outskirts, just launched last month at 94% sold. A couple of 4-5 bedroom left still available. I wanted to see whether the 3P framework works and understand whether is this undervalued buy and is there a clear exit strategy for this property. The unit that I have in mind to present today is a 5 bedroom. The size is 1453 square feet, is harmonized. So this excludes the aircon ledges. It has a lot of space that's usable. The entry quantum for this unit right now is at 3 mil, and the PSF is at 2001 PSF harmonized. So let's break that down. Same thing, you use a 3P framework to identify from a price, position, and plan framework whether this is a winning condo or not. Let's do the CMA for Springleaf. And we realize that for Springleaf, actually, there's not a lot of supply similar to One-North. Even if there is, the supply in Springleaf actually coupled with quite a few boutique condos, not really the kind of big scale condos around the area. So actually for Springleaf, the good thing for you is that there's a supply scarcity effect. Okay, so we have the Essence, we have Roots at Transit, we have the Brooks 1 and 2, and we have Forest Hills condo. Similarly, in the same framework, I'll be comparing the resale disparity effect. So for the Essence, TOP in 2021, which is the lease started from 2018. If you look at the transactions, generally, we are looking at about 1.3 to 1.4 mil for 2 bedders, 3 bedders. Okay, I want to take this opportunity to highlight why am I showing 2 bedders and 1 bedders transaction instead of a 5 bedder transaction. Okay, there's one very, very simple reason. There's no 5 bedders in Springleaf. So essentially, what you are actually buying is a super scarce product in the entire area, which basically you are the leader in the market 4 years later. There's no, if a 5 bedder buyer that's looking for Springleaf or wants to be nearby the Thomson East Coast line, there's no other product than Springleaf to choose from. Okay, but essentially what I'm trying to show you here is the PSF in the nearby surrounding resale that would probably give you that confidence or rather the systematic approach, whether it's Springleaf undervalued by or not. So for showing you for the 4-bedroom CMA, the supply scarcity effect. Okay, if you look at the entire area here, as I mentioned, besides Springleaf, there's a Hong Heng Garden, the Brooks and Forest Hills. There's only one condo, which is Forest Hills, that had a 4-bedder transaction in the last 2 years. Okay, let me just repeat that again. In the last 2 years, if I were to do a 1 kilometer radius around Springleaf, there is only one transaction of 4-bedder that happened in the last 2 years. So basically, can you imagine if today you're a buyer, you need space, you want to live in Springleaf, you're looking for connectivity to Town East Line, that basically there's no unit available for you to buy. And furthermore, there's no 5-bedders in Springleaf for you to choose from. And then if you look at the entire new launch market, so normally if you're probably considering Springleaf, you would also probably consider Lentor as well. So if you look at the entire Lentor area, there's only one project that has a 5-bedder, which is Lentor Mansion. So with Lentor Mansion and Springleaf, right, it makes up to be only 3% of the entire supply in District 26. Okay, so that is the power of supply scarcity. Again, use that to your advantage, because in terms of price movement, it's always about supply and demand. So in this example here, is clearly demonstrating in terms of the scarcity of supply, what that naturally means is it will fuel the demand or the price trajectory for your sales chart 4 years later. Similar exercise that I'm doing for lease disparity is property at Seasons Park. This is a 2-bedder example. The concept is to show you in terms of PSF, is it still worthy to enter or not? So using a 2-bedder, $1.33 million purchase price, for example, this 2-bedder has a square footage of 1044 square feet. It has a 69 years of balance lease left. The actual PSF that we're looking at is 1,002, but if you harmonize that, it's about 1337 PSF. So on surface, it's 1337. If you do a brand new 99 years reset, what you find that is your full quantum is from 1.3, it becomes 2 mil, and your PSF resets to about 1009 PSF. And after 4 years of SSD, if you were to buy this property, you're left with a lease of only balance 65 years. Okay? So the lease disparity effect drawn onto a chart, what you realize if today the lease has started here, but you're buying way later, and 4 years later, if you're considering an exit plan, you will be left with 66 years leave. And think about your resellability next time. Your future buyer, how is he going to perceive this property with reference to any other property? So which property would have a bigger exit audience? You probably know the answer. Now, let's do a region gap analysis like I did. So as I mentioned, for the only 5 bidders in the entire region in District 26, there's only one, which is Lentor Mansion. I want to understand, is Springleaf actually a property that's priced higher, fair, or below Lentor Mansion? Okay, so if I look at the overall quantum that's currently averaging in Lentor Mansion, which is fully sold by the way, is at 3.2 to 3.3 mil. Okay, just reference that to Springleaf, the entry quotient is about 3 mil. So that's actually about a 300K kind of differential, which works out to be about 10% differential as well. So 10% actually entry price between Springleaf and Lentor Mansion, I would say that's pretty a good buffer that you could consider. Okay, in terms of PSF, the average PSF for Lentor Mansion is about 2002. Same thing here for PSF entry for Springleaf is 2001. So there is a price buffer as a safety net that you can actually consider to this project. With reference to the 4 bedrooms, so okay, besides the 4 bedrooms, if you are thinking of an entry into a 4-bedroom class, I want to understand how does the entire landscape of 4-bedders in Lentor look like. They are currently averaging around 2001 PSF. 2001 to 2000 PSF, which are average quantum about 2.7 to 2.8. Alright, but the Springleaf 4-bedder is actually averaging about 2.4 to 2.5. So that's again approximately about 300K kind of a price differential. Very healthy margin if you ask me. Again, if you look at it comparatively to all the outskirts property, because sometimes if you are a buyer looking for the outskirts, you may potentially be interested in looking at maybe the west or the east. I want to understand how does the price movements look like in other outskirts areas. So for Parktown, integrated development in Tampines Mall, it's at 2006 PSF. Woodlands Far North, maybe very near JB, at 2002 PSF, and Far West at Sora at 2005 PSF. So these are actually creating what I call safety nets, because I don't want to overpay, neither do I want to be the highest in the same segment that I'm looking at. In fact, Springleaf actually serves as a very safe entry into the entire outskirts new launch market. And if I look at the entire 5-bed quantum gap, as mentioned, so for 5 bedders in the entire market, there's not a lot. If I look at across the region in the outskirts area, the quantum actually starts from 3.2 all the way to 4 mil for outskirts. This is referencing Springleaf entry quantum at 3 mil. Okay, so again, if you're a multi-generation family who has an immediate need for a 5-bedroom for the space, and you are maybe wanting to get the best value, best bang of buck for the size, and you don't want to compromise on connectivity, because your kids and maybe the elderly parents need access to the MRT stations, Springleaf is probably a very good choice in terms of price and not compromising the facilities and the connectivity that you get to enjoy. Okay, so when you buy or considering outskirts property, what you also want to take note of is how does that compare with the EC market as well. Okay, so for EC, right, what we find, so this chart actually very interestingly I put out yesterday, EC and OCR disparity predominantly in the past history 3 years ago, right, had a 60% kind of gap. So when you're a buyer last time, you're probably considering, oh, should I buy an EC or should I buy an outskirts property, because naturally the EC product will be cheaper because it's subsidized by the government. But then if you fast forward today into 2025, you realize that that gap between the OCR and EC disparity, right, has shrunk quite drastically. Now the gap that we're looking at is about 28% versus 60% 2 years ago. So what that means, right, is it actually creates a very strong safety net. Essentially, it's a pillow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Today, who do you think is the one that's actually setting the price for EC? It's no secret, it's the government. Okay, so do you think the prices for EC will be allowed to drop? Ladies and gentlemen, that's very highly unlikely. So what that means is if you look at EC as your price support layer for your next class, right, this essentially is your support. So for your outskirts, what you really want is a strong support for your price to grow in future. Okay, and the best kind of support is from the government. If you understand that, you understand what I say. Okay, and now laying down my blueprint for my exit 10. So if my EC new launch is at 1,007 and if my gap is less than 30%, my entry price into Springleaf for outskirts is an unfair entry advantage. Coupled with the price gap which I have with other rental classes in the 4-bedroom and even rental modern at 2005 PSF, I find Springleaf to be a very safe entry. If you're a buyer on Springleaf, you can have multiple holding period here, because I'm illustrating to you certain exit milestones which you potentially can consider. Okay, I won't go deep into this slide. Feel free to pause this video and take a look at whatever I have on this slide. But basically what that means is if you are buying Springleaf today, there is different kind of timeline exit strategies that you can adopt depending on your own family needs, whether it's a short-term pivot home to your final landed goal, or maybe you just like this place and you want to stay long-term. All are actually very good. Now we go into the position, we want to understand, is there a specific stack for the 5-bedder that's priced fairly, unfairly, more advantage in a certain way? So we have done analysis, okay. I've also done the pricing analysis for 4 beta as well. So what I again want to find out is, am I, from a PSF perspective and a quantum perspective, am I priced out? Okay, so if I look at the stack study, 34 and 38, okay, so for 30 and 38 are facing a forest which has excellent forest views. For the stack 34 is pool facing, which by default would have loaded a premium on the pricing. What I'm actually surprised to see is that they're all priced very, very closely. I'm using a level 4 as an example. So 0430, 0434, 0438, all are very, very good buys because they're priced at 2001 PSF only. And in fact, the 4 betas for stack 3, I've used it as a comparison, priced at 2000 PSF. So actually the 4 betas are equally attractive. So I'm happy to share that for the 4 and 5 betas today, if you're exploring an entry into Springleaf residence, they are all priced very, very well for you, for a good exit strategy. Last but not least, let's again do the floor plan analysis. So in comparison, like I mentioned, there is no 5 beta to compare to. Okay, so what I just did was I compared with a 4 beta Seasons Park, which is not for sale. So I just tried to find and deep dive my CMA and find the most relevant big unit in the vicinity. I found a 4 beta Season Park and a 3 beta the Brooks, because there's no 4 beta in the Brooks. So again, if you do deep dive into the floor plan, what you realize is not very efficient, a very curved kind of living layout, and a very narrow kind of a kitchen and a corridor space here, and a very long corridor space over here as well. So not the most ideal. And for the Brooks, basically very longish, not preferred. No doubt this is squarish, but it's quite long lah. So it's not preferred. So I like how Springleaf layout is actually the most optimized at 1475 square feet. And one of the unique selling points for Springleaf is the walls are actually hackable here. So you could customize it to a very nice, expensive landscape layout for the living room, which is really rare. Or you can just keep it in 5 bedrooms. Okay, so very squarish layout is something that your future buyers would definitely appreciate and increases your resellability next time. So with that, I hope that today my demonstration of this 3P framework would cater to 3 different case studies, whether you are an investor, you are a young upgrader, or you are in the later seasons of your property journey and looking for a multi-generation home. This 3P framework serves as a guide for you to make a calculated move to make sure that your entry into the product has a very clear plan and exit strategy. Okay, my name is Jared. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, do like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you.